Alarms rose as dawn slid over EOS-9's ridges. Commander Elara Vey stood on the command deck, watching contacts multiply. One signature. 5. A formation. Confirm, she said. Ops replied, steady. Kael Dominion ships. Flagship, 2 carriers, escorts. Techs moved with clipped voices. Elara let fear heat and settle, sharpening every choice. She opened the all-call. This is Commander Vey. Shelter protocol read. Defense teams to stations. Pilots, suit up. We hold. Outside, the fleet unfolded like razors, the flagship polished angles. Transmission, bandwidth locked, Ops said. A precise figure appeared, high collar, pale features, faint teal sigils. I am Kaelen Drix, enforcer of the Kael Dominion, he said. EOS-9 is under Dominion protection. Power down for peaceful integration. Resistance will damage what you value. Elara lifted her chin. Commander Elara Vey, for the free settlers of EOS-9. We decline. Decline. A tilt. You are outnumbered. We've been outnumbered since the first rig. We manage. You have 1 hour to comply. After, we remove impediments. The channel cut. Elara told her people, we blind their eyes, break their rhythm, move. Drone nests 1, 2, 5 hot. Ground lances charge. K, on my wing. K grinned. About time. In the locker bay, Elara sealed her flight suit. For a heartbeat she pictured EOS-9 as mornings, steam from the oven, gliders over the lake. She set it aside and climbed into Talon 3. The gunship lifted. Wing check, Elara said. Talon 1, green, K replied. Talon 2, green. They launched low, hugging ridges. Dominion fighters poured from carriers in clean lattices. Human flight looked messy. That was the weapon. Target sensor boys, Elara said. Blind their net. Drone swarms streaked upward. The first boy popped. The lattice stuttered. Elara slipped into the seam, K tight on her wing. Kael interceptors curved in, sleek knives made for symmetry. Elara dove under a pair, rolled, cut thrust, slid into their wake. Her rear turret stitched the second's tail. It fell from order, smoking. Vey, Ops crackled, carriers warming strike craft. Copy. Lancers? Charged, but they'll draw heat. We're warm already. They broke toward the carriers, skirting outside optimal range. Dominion fire cut the air with staccato precision. Elara refused their loom. She shattered rhythm, burst, drift, surge. A volley tore past where Math expected her. On the flagship, Kaelen watched the render. He tracked the human commander's signature, the way her unit flexed around terrain like it breathed. He had read human doctrine, variance and improvisation, but had doubted. Now he revised. Designate Talon 3, he said. Non-lethal net. His second frowned. They defy integration. They also reveal patterns we miss, Kaelen said. A luminous net bloomed from an escort, bionic lines knitting toward Talon 3. Elara saw it late, alarms read across her HUD. She could outrun speed, not geometry. K, brake high. Commander. Do it. She cut power, rolled vertical, skimmed the cliff so close dust hissed along the canopy. The net flexed. She fired ventral thrusters, scraped the seam, and dropped through a gap the width of a breath. The net cracked on rock and blew out in blue rain. Still with me, she asked. Kay's laugh steadied. Wouldn't miss it. Good. Lances on my mark. On the ground, crews braced at coils. Bedrock-buried spires could spear the sky. Fire 1 and the Dominion crushed the source. Fire 3, and the Math wobbled. 3, 2, 1. Mark. EOS-9 flared. 3 spears of light punched up, slicing cloud, finding metal. 1 carrier's shield buckled. Another's forward array blew. The third took the hit along its spine and juddered. Relocate, Elara ordered. All lance crews to secondary pits. Kaelen's jaw tightened. Dispersed lances, his second reported. She anticipated us. He opened a channel. Commander Vey, he said. You waste lives. I spend them on what matters, she answered. Yours or mine. There is order here. You choose pain. I choose meaning. He studied her. You cannot win. Maybe not today, she said. But you will remember us. He closed the channel. The formation tilted into a stacked wedge to drop soldiers near the domes. Ops, Elara said. They are aiming for the heart. Evac routes. Cavern tunnels ready. We can hide half the colony if we hold 15 minutes. Then we buy 20. She dropped into canyons, drawing interceptors. Rocks rose like teeth. The world narrowed to shadow and glare. Kay fed a surveyor's pass. Elara sank the gunship into the thread, felt the hull kiss stone, and burst into open sky where a decoy swarm waited. Tag, she said. The decoys lit. Interceptors shredded them while ground teams moved families into tunnels. The wedge punched through. Drop pods fell. Elara streaked toward the first wave. Her guns walked fire across seals, cracking two before they opened. The third split and Dominion soldiers spilled out, angular armor, movements timed to a metronome. Ground teams met them with barricades and grit. A farmer fired, then hauled a neighbor behind cover. Shields at 60, Ops reported. We can't take a direct push. Understood. She banked, bringing the flagship into view. Time to annoy someone important, she said. They climbed. Blue thin to black. Escorts turned to corral. Elara did not break. She opened a tight beam first. You said certainty, she told the cold star at grid center. Here's mine, this world will remember the morning it grew a spine bright enough to make your empire squint. Static, then his voice, edged. You caught destruction. I caught respect. Stand down. Catch me. She cut the line, rolled Talon 3 belly up, and dropped toward air. Escorts followed. In lower sky, ground lances woke again, triangulated to her beacon. She punched through the safe window. The escorts did not. 3 lances spoke. 3 escorts vanished. 15 minutes, Ops breathed. We might make 20. Elara looked at the flagship and knew he was looking back. He opened the channel a final time. You are outnumbered. Why do you fight? Because you don't understand what a human heart can do, she said. The line stilled. The sky did not. EOS 9 kept holding. Dust hung in EOS 9 skies like a second dawn, lit by the bruised glow of Dominion bombardments. The colony's domes were intact but scorched, fields trampled, ridges gutted. Commander Elara Vey walked the main square, listening more than speaking. Colonists argued at the edges, pack ships, run for Allied space, or cling to soil already half terraformed. She kept her voice low, steady, the kind that settled people into action. Shelters held. Lances still fire. That means we're alive. And if we're alive, we fight. The words traveled through the square, clipping whispers into silence. She didn't add more. She knew when silence carried heavier than speech. Inside the command dome, Ops pointed at a display. They are probing defenses, mapping us. If they commit, they'll crush what's left. Elara traced the red patterns crawling closer. They want us tired, then compliant. Ops hesitated. Dominion envoy requests parley. The room stirred. Kay leaned in. Trap. Of course, Elara said. But if he asked, he wants to talk. That means he hasn't decided how much blood he'll spend. She glanced around. Tell them I'll meet. The neutral site was the shell of an old survey station, abandoned before terraforming took root. Steel skeletons jutted like ribs from the earth. She brought only Kay and 2 guards, then ordered them to stay at the perimeter. If it became her last walk, she'd face it on her own. Kaelen Drix waited where a roof had once been, armored but unhelmeted. His posture carried Dominion precision, each breath measured, each motion intentional. Behind him stood 2 escorts, silent as statues. "Commander Vey," he said. The words clicked, as if rehearsed. "Your colony strains against inevitability." "Inevitability is a story empires tell themselves," Elara replied. "Doesn't make it true." He studied her. "You would sacrifice thousands for pride." "For freedom," she corrected. "Pride is a luxury. Choice is survival." Kaelen tilted his head, eyes narrowing. "Choice invites chaos. Dominion order is stability. You resist stability." Elara's lips curved, but without humor. "Stability at the cost of every beating thing? That's not life. That's embalming." Silence stretched. He should have pressed advantage, but instead his gaze lingered. He seemed to measure not just her words but the fire behind them. "Finally," he said, "you fly with ferocity uncommon among your kind." "Among mine," she challenged. "Your species burns hotter than most. That fire blinds you. Or it lights the path you're too afraid to walk." The wind shifted through broken beams. For a moment, they weren't enemies but 2 figures caught in the same storm, testing which flame burned brighter. Kaelen broke it first. "If you surrender now, I can temper what follows. Lives spared. Infrastructure preserved." "You don't want surrender," Elara said quietly. "If you did, you'd have pressed harder. You want to understand why we won't break." His expression flickered, barely visible, but enough for her to know she'd struck close. "You think defiance will move the Dominion," he said. "I think defiance already moved you." His eyes sharpened, yet he didn't deny it. He turned instead, voice crisp again. "You will not win. You may survive longer, but not win." Elara stepped closer, steel between them. "We don't measure by winning. We measure by what we protect. Can you say the same?" The escorts shifted, uneasy. Kaelen didn't move. For the span of a breath, the distance between them felt charged, like live current strung between stars. Then he said, "This meeting is concluded." Back at the dome, Kay paced. He looked at you like a puzzle. Elara removed her gloves, dropped into a chair. "He's trying to fit fire into his neat little box. It won't fit. Still dangerous. Yes?" She rubbed her temples. "But hesitation is leverage." Ops burst in. New barrage pattern. They are hitting outer farms, indiscriminate strikes. Civilians exposed. The room chilled. Elara rose. "Rally med teams. Pull families into caverns. Rotate crews to conserve power." Kay frowned. "He offers mercy at parley, then rains fire." Elara's jaw clenched. "Or he shows his empire he hasn't softened. Either way, people bleed." That night, Elara walked the cavern shelters. Families huddled among lanterns and rations. Children traced constellations into dust, mothers whispered stories. When colonists saw her, they straightened, shoulders squaring. She gave no speeches, only brief touches, on a shoulder, a child's hair, a clasped hand. A boy tugged her sleeve. "Commander, will they take our skies?" She knelt. "They can't take what you carry inside. And you've got sky in your eyes already." His grin steadied her more than she steadied him. Above, Kaelen stood in his flagship's observation chamber. Reports scrolled of effective strikes, farm casualties, resource drain. Victory on paper. Yet his thoughts lingered not on numbers but on a woman who refused inevitability. His second officer approached. "Commander, integration will accelerate if we target shelters." Kaelen's tongue cut sharper than plasma. "Negative. Families remain off limits." The officer stiffened. "But execute as ordered." When he was alone, Kaelen whispered what he had not dared to say aloud, your fire unsettles me, human. At dawn, Elara reviewed damage reports. Fields smoldered, stockpiles thinned, but the colony held. Every strike hardened resolve instead of cracking it. Kay dropped beside her. They'll escalate again. They will, she agreed. But so will we. The console chimed, Dominion broadcast, unencrypted. Kaelen's voice carried over every channel. Humans of EOS 9. Your resistance prolongs suffering. Each hour you fight, more burns. Your commander gambles with your lives. Elara patched her feed into the same channel. Colonists of EOS 9, she said, clear and steady. They tell you survival means silence. I tell you survival means voice. Look outside, fields charred, yes, but still growing. Domes cracked, but still standing. That's who we are. We endure. And if they burn every field, we'll plant in ash. Her voice threaded with conviction until even Kay blinked, caught by the heat of it. Across the colony, miners paused, children listened, and farmers tightened grips on tools that would serve as weapons if needed. When she closed the channel, the room held its breath. Then Ops murmured, they heard you. Elara only nodded, eyes fixed on the map where Dominion red pressed closer. She knew the cost, knew the stakes, and knew something else. Kaelen Drix was listening too. The night ended with another barrage, heavier than before. Rocks shook, domes rattled, and shelters filled with dust. But when dawn returned, EOS 9 still stood, and so did its people. Above them, on the flagship, Kaelen paced before a silent viewport, watching smoke spiral upward. His officers waited for orders. He gave none. His thoughts were with the words she'd flung across channels, words that burned through more than his armor. And Elara, standing on the ridgeline, stared at the same sky. She whispered to herself, not prayer, not vow, but a reminder, fire never asks permission to spread. EOS 9 trembled under the weight of a sky filled with fire. The Dominion had abandoned patience. Entire wings of strike craft broke atmosphere, their engines streaking like falling stars. In the command dome, Elara Vey braced against the console as status lights bled red across the board. They are committing everything, Ops said, voice tight. Then so are we. Elara steadied her tone. All pilots launch. Lances, fire on sight. Ground teams, defend the shelters. Kay leaned close. This is the push. It is, she answered. So we push back harder. Her gunship roared skyward, Talon 3 catching the sunrise on its wings. She could almost forget the exhaustion buried in her bones. Almost. But the air split with Dominion fighters before the thought could linger. Their formation descended in perfect geometry, a grid of blades ready to carve the colony apart. Stay close, she told her wing. If we break, we die. The first exchange lit the sky. Lasers traced the air, drones erupted in swarms, and flak split clouds into burning petals. Elara threaded her ship through the chaos, daring angles that Dominion pilots avoided. She felt Kay's presence on her wing, steady but straining to keep pace. On your left, Kay called. I see it. Elara rolled, dropping under a Dominion fighter, firing upward through its belly. Metal shattered, raining fragments. The wreck caught another fighter, breaking the Dominion line for an instant. That instant was enough. Human drones surged into the gap, lances below cutting arcs of light into the sky. One Dominion carrier shuddered as its shielding failed. Cheers erupted across the human comms, ragged but alive. Elara smiled grimly. Keep pressure. Don't let them regroup. On the Dominion flagship, Kaelen Drix watched the battle unfold with narrowed eyes. His officers relayed progress, shelters collapsing, human losses climbing, but his gaze tracked only one signature weaving through the fight, Talon 3. She leads with fury, one officer noted. Kaelen said nothing. He watched her dive straight through a formation, saw the ripple of chaos she left behind. It was madness by Dominion standards. Yet every maneuver cut sharper than mathematics could predict. Shall we intercept? The officer asked. Kaelen hesitated. No. Redirect fire toward lancers. But his eyes betrayed him, following her ship as if tethered. Elara's HUD screamed warnings as Dominion fire locked onto her. She banked low, skimming ridges, dragging pursuit into the range of ground defenses. Lances fired, searing the sky. Pursuers vanished in streaks of light. Kay whooped. "That's 3 you pulled into the meat grinder. Make it 4. She climbed, catching another tail, and drove her cannons into its flank. The fighter spun down, smoke trailing. Then ops cut in, strained. They are deploying dropships near Dome 2. Dozens of pods. Elara's gut tightened. Ground teams, intercept. Kay, with me, we cut them before they land. They angled toward the colony. Drop pods fell like rain, trails of fire behind them. Elara fired into the cluster, cracking one pod midair. Bodies spilled, lifeless before they touched ground. Another pod split open early, troops dropping hard but alive, charging with mechanical precision. Colonists met them with barricades and grit, firing rifles and improvised launchers. Sparks danced off Dominion armor. The square filled with smoke and shouting. Elara slammed Talon 3 into a low dive, guns tearing across the battlefield. Dominion lines staggered. She sat down long enough to step into the fight. "Push them back," she shouted, voice cutting through smoke. Farmers and miners roared, surging forward. Dominion soldiers faltered, not from weakness, but from encountering an enemy that refused to retreat. Kaelen received the ground reports, unexpected resistance, Dominion squads pinned. His second officer pressed. "Authorize orbital strikes. Erase their shelters." Kaelen's jaw locked. The word hovered unspoken. He saw again the boy's face from the colony broadcast, the way Elara had knelt to him. He had not meant to remember, yet the memory clung. "No orbital strikes," he ordered. "Commander." "Hold position," Kaelen snapped. The officer obeyed, though unease thickened the air. Kaelen's hands curled behind his back. He could not explain why his chest felt heavier each time her voice carried across battle reports. On the ground, Elara drove forward with a rifle stripped from Dominion dead. Smoke burned her lungs, but she pressed until the line buckled. Colonists surged, pushing invaders back toward their shattered pods. Kay shouted over the din, "They are breaking." "Not enough," Elara panted. Her comm crackled with Op's voice, "More drops incoming. At least twice as many." Exhaustion clawed her bones, but she forced her voice steady. "Then we bleed them again. Every meter." The second wave struck harder. Colonists faltered. Elara fired until her weapon clicked empty. Dominion troops pressed forward, shields raised. And then, through the smoke, she saw him. Kaelen Drix, stepping from a pod, blade in hand, movements calm while the world burned. His troops surged around him, but his eyes sought her instantly, as though nothing else mattered. Their gazes locked. The battlefield shrank to 2. He raised his blade in silent challenge. She lifted hers, scavenged steel but steady. They met in the square, clash of metal ringing louder than rifles. Sparks leapt from each strike. His movements were precise, drilled, hers were raw, improvised, fueled by will. Neither gave ground. "You fight as though defeat does not exist," he said, striking. "Because for us it doesn't," she answered, blocking, shoving him back. "You cannot win. Yet here I stand." Their blades caught, faces inches apart. For the briefest instant, heat surged not from fury but from something unspoken. She saw the hesitation in his eyes, the crack in Dominion's certainty. He could have ended her. The opening was there. But his blade stilled. "You feel it," she whispered, breathless. "That's why you can't kill me." His grip faltered. The truth of it hung heavy. He broke away, signaling retreat. Dominion troops obeyed, falling back into pods, lifting skyward under covering fire. Colonists shouted triumph, ragged and disbelieving. Elara stood in the smoke, blade lowered, chest heaving. She watched Kaelen vanish into the sky. Kay stumbled to her side. Why didn't he finish it? Elara wiped blood from her cheek. Because maybe he's starting to understand. She didn't say what else she knew, that her own heart had shifted too. Not softened, but sharpened, by the impossible fire they shared, enemy and commander, bound across the battlefield. The square still burned. Bodies still lay unburied. Yet for the first time, she believed the fight had already changed. Ash still clung to EOS 9's ridges. The square smelled of metal and smoke, bodies carried to shallow graves. Elara Vey stood on the command deck again, shoulders squared despite exhaustion. Reports came in one after another, shelters intact, domes cracked but sealed, lances cooling, colonists wounded yet alive. Ops exhaled. They pulled back. For now. For now is enough, Elara said. Her voice carried no triumph. She knew the truth, they had survived, not won. Survival was enough to spark another day. Kay leaned against the rail. Think they'll regroup? Yes, Elara admitted. But not tonight. On the Dominion flagship, Kaelen Drix listened to silence. His officers presented charts of losses, predictions of swift conquest if escalation resumed. None dared question why he had ordered retreat when the battle could have turned. When they left him alone, he moved to the viewport. Below, EOS 9 glowed faintly, its battered domes reflecting alien starlight. He closed his eyes and recalled the press of steel against Elara's blade, her defiance flashing like lightning. His chest ached with something his training had no word for. That evening, Elara walked among the cavern shelters. Families stirred stew from ration blocks, lanterns flickered against rock walls, children clung to toys rescued from fire. Every glance she met held gratitude, but also a question she couldn't answer: how much longer? She knelt beside the same boy she'd spoken to days earlier. His voice was small. "Commander, are they gone?" "They'll try again," she said, honest. "But when they do, we'll still be here." He nodded, believing her more than she believed herself. Later, on the ridge overlooking the colony, she stood alone. The night sky shimmered with colors unique to EOS 9's atmosphere, green arcs and violet flares that stretched across the stars. For a moment, she let herself breathe. Then she heard it, a voice behind her, low but unmistakable. Elara Vey. Her hand went to her sidearm before she turned. Kaelen Drix stepped from the shadows, unarmored, no blade drawn. His presence struck harder than any weapon. "You shouldn't be here," she said. "I know." The words unsettled her more than any threat could. She studied him, waiting. "Why?" she asked. He lifted his gaze to the alien auroras. "I was taught fire consumes. That it must be contained. Yet I watched you fight, and it did not consume. It endured." Elara's breath caught. "You spared me." His jaw tightened. "I should have ended you. That is Dominion law. But you didn't." "No," he stepped closer, shadows cutting sharp lines across his face. "And I cannot explain it without speaking treason." Silence stretched between them. She felt the pull of something dangerous, not from threat but from recognition. "You saw what your empire denies," she said quietly. "That passion isn't weakness. It's strength." Kaelen's gaze fixed on her. Strength, or contagion? Maybe both. He almost smiled, a small fracture in his mask. "You are reckless. And you are conflicted." The honesty of it bound them closer than any blade. Below, the colony bustled with repair crews. Sparks showered as welders patched domes. Voices carried, tired but alive. Kaelen watched with fascination. They should despair. Instead they rebuild. "It's who we are," Elara said. "We fall, we rise. That's the part you'll never understand if you stay chained to Dominion order." He turned to her fully now, tension crackling in his stance. "What if I do not wish to stay chained?" The words hung heavy. Elara felt the ground shift beneath them. "You'd be hunted," she said. "By your own." "I am already hunted," he replied. Her chest tightened. The night's air felt thinner, charged. She didn't step back. What is it you want, Kaelen? She asked. His answer was unsteady, almost human. To know why your fire does not burn me to ash. For a long moment, neither moved. The alien sky blazed above, violet and green flares spilling over the ridge. Between them stretched the silence of choice. The comm in Elara's ear crackled. Kay's voice, Commander, scouts report Dominion fleet repositioning. They are not leaving. Elara's focus stayed on Kaelen. You hear that? He nodded. My empire will not yield. Then what happens now? His reply was low. Now. I choose. For the first time, his certainty fractured into something raw. He reached, not touching, but close enough that she felt the weight of his intent. You should go, she said, though her voice softened. He inclined his head. Until we meet again. Then he vanished into shadow, leaving her alone with the burning sky. Back in the command dome, Kay eyed her as she returned. You're late. Scouting the ridge, she answered, too quickly. Kay studied her. Right. Scouting? She didn't explain. Couldn't. The truth wasn't ready for daylight. Ops reported new data, Dominion ships held formation, but hesitated. That hesitation was victory in itself. Elara looked out the viewport, toward the faint gleam of the flagship. She whispered to herself, he's already changing. Morning broke harsh and red. Colonists gathered to hear her speak. She stood on a crate in the square, voice carrying over the wounded but unbroken crowd. They think we're fragile. That pressure breaks us. But look around, domes stand, families stand, we stand. They call us reckless. I call us alive. Her words spread through the crowd, sparking tired faces into light. Farmers raised fists, miners roared, children clung tighter to their parents. Above, the Dominion fleet lingered, unmoving. On the flagship, Kaelen stood at his viewport, hearing her voice carried through intercepted channels. His officers pressed for orders. He gave none. That night, Elara stood again on the ridge. She thought of Kaelen, of the blade he had not driven home, of the fire he claimed unsettled him. She thought of her people, scarred but breathing. She lifted her face to the alien auroras. They can call us reckless. They can call us doomed. But hearts like ours, her voice caught in the wind, finishing not as speech but as vow. We burn brighter than their stars. And across the gulf of night, on a ship meant to embody Dominion law, Kaelen Drix whispered the same words to himself.